Hello and welcome to Northwest Knitting. My name is Kathy. I'm coming to you from Eugene, Oregon, and this is my knitting podcast where I'd like to talk to you about my knitting projects, fibers I love, and my journey to make a sustainable wardrobe. I really appreciate you being here. You give me purpose in some ways to my knitting journey, and I really enjoy any comments, so thank you so much for that. You can find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Northwest Knitting. Let me see what I can say about it's so gloomy here right now. We have some little bits of sun, but it's gloomy, but the way the light comes in the morning into this space, it brightens things up. So today what I'll talk to you about is my what I'm wearing, which is my latest, biggest finished object. I have another little finished object, a hat, and a couple whips. So I think I will just jump in and get started. So many of you have seen, I've talked before about this sweater. It is the Alpine Bloom Tee by Caitlin Hunter, also known as Boyland Knitworks. I've talked about the sweater in the past in episodes 27 and 28. And so I'll try not to repeat too much, but I'd like it all in one spot. So here we go. The solid color I used is the Jamieson & Smith 2-ply fingering weight, jumper weight they call it, that I got from Woolly Thistle in a cone. So the cone comes in 25 yards or 500 grams, and it's a great deal. It is, I talked in a lot in episode 28 about how the cones have spinning oil in them that needs to come out as opposed to the little balls of the Jamieson & Smith. And for that reason, when you're knitting it knits up a lot. It feels kind of stringy compared to the balls, but after you wash it in hot water, then it really does bloom quite a bit. So as I talked in that previous episode, I did wind off quite a bit of the blue yarn. This is shade 36, by the way. It's really a true navy. And I did wind a lot of it off, wash it in hot water to get the spinning oil out, and that what really was a much softer yarn to knit with. Then I got most of the way through the body and had to work directly off the cone again. Well, I didn't have to, but I chose to. And that wasn't as enjoyable to knit, but it's really not bad. But it's a different thing entirely after you wash it. So, and I've talked so much in the past about the yarn I used for the color work is the Feederbrook Farm Entropy DK in the Event Horizon colorway, and it is a very it's a non-superwash, very much softer type of yarn. It's 100% blue-faced Leicester. The cone, of course, is from Shetland. It's 100% Shetland wool. I actually have some other Shetland wool. I have some from Elemental Effects and Jorstad Creek's Elemental Effects. And I also have some Shetland yarn that has been raised here locally, and I feel that both of them are a little softer than the Jamieson & Smiths. That's not lots softer, but definitely to me a noticeable amount. I am wearing, I have a very, very, very fine little, almost a tank underneath this, but I woke up this morning and grabbed it as soon as it was finished blocking, and I am wearing it next to my skin, and it is not bothering me. So everybody has their own point of view on this, but for me it is not a big problem. So that's great. So let me tell you a little bit. Of course, the glorious yoke attracted me to this, but also this sweet lacy collar. Now, this would be much more noticeable if this were a lighter color. So partly, I just wanted to see what it was like to do lace at a collar because I had never done that, and so I was glad to do that. I did have some issues initially. I talk about that in episode 27, where I cast on with size 3 needles, and it just didn't work. The lace was too loose. It came up almost in a funnel. So I went back. I cast on with size 1 needles, did a few rows in the ones, and then I switched to size 2 for the rest of the lace. Then when I got to the color work, I think I did either size 4, I think I did size 5 needles for the color work actually. And for the body, I did size 3. And I did not go up a size for the sleeves. So I am a bit of a loose knitter, so you have to experiment for yourself and see what you think. Let me see what I can say. Sheen oil. Okay, so the biggest modification I made is that the original pattern, you get down to here and there's a little lace edging, and I believe you do the lace and you graft it on. Well, of course, I just thought since I was using a very woolly wool, there was no way I was gonna survive with short sleeves. So I made it long sleeves and that is my biggest modification. I did a 2x2 rib at the sleeves, and I did a 2x2 twisted rib at the bottom of the sweater. Let's see. I also, as I got well below the yoke, as I got towards the end of the sweater, I did twice increase it, but I found that I didn't need to do that very much for my hips. So I did a size 2. And I mean, it's plenty big. I always wonder if the yokes are a little big even at that. But even the size 2 was enough to accommodate my hips. So I did have gauge. It's 24 stitches to the inch. And let's see, what does she have for the sizing? For size 2, the finished circumference is 40 inches. So for me, that was about, for full bust, 2 inches of positive ease. But I am, at this point, I've talked to you before, I am picking size based on my upper bust. So I'm measuring up here, and that's a 36. So let's see. And then I'm adding stitches later if I need to. Let's see, 36. So she's figuring 2 to 8 inches of ease. So I definitely picked on the lower end of the ease. The other thing, otherwise in here, well, I don't know. I'll show you back here so you could see, but it's really, it fits great. I just added very little in here. Feel pretty comfortable. I'm really happy that I made nice long sleeves. So there's my 2x2 rib. And I do the twisted rib because I like to have it not cling. I don't like it coming in like this. So I just want it a little looser. It's really a tiny thing, but for me, it really feels good to do that. The other thing that I liked about the pattern, I think I talked about it in one of the previous episodes, is this is the front, but in the back you really don't see a jog because all the increases are in this portion, and it just really has a great smooth look. I absolutely love the flower, and it's just it's so nice. And my floats are gorgeous. Already felting up very, very nicely. So anyway, I am so happy to have this finished. I'm going to have a celebratory cup of chai here. This is a nice cup, but I don't know who did it. I got it at our farmer's market, or holiday market, a couple years ago. Now, there was no clearing of throat until I started, and here I am. Anyway, do you have any big sweaters you're working on? I'd love to hear about it. I will say a couple things about this. Not the design, not the design per se. I'm going to pause for 1 minute. So I don't know what that coughing is all about suddenly. There are a couple things. One is size 3 needles, fingering weight yarn in a dark color was maybe not the perfect thing for the last couple months. So I ended up pausing on this a number of times. I did when back in the fall. I started it ages ago. I paused to work on my scrappy sweater, which didn't require as much of me. It was on bigger needles. I paused at the holidays to do some holiday knitting, and then even after the holidays I did a couple accessories, a baby sweater. I just found it really, really hard to work on something this dark during the winter. So I'm really happy to have it, but I am absolutely thrilled to get it off the needles. And the other thing I wanted to say about it is it feels like an incredible statement piece. So I'm going to really love wearing it. But I have to say that right now I am ready for some basic solids. I would be happy all day long knitting color work. I absolutely love it. But in terms of what I'm reaching for in my closet, this will and hopefully this will last a very long time, and I'll pull it out. I'm going to a concert tonight. I'm going to wear it to the concert, and I am going to try and put it in regular rotation, but part of me is really craving some plain colors. But much as I would love, and I'll tell you about this in a minute, much as I would love a navy blue cardigan right now, I will not be casting on anything super dark. Is that true? I do have something that's a little darker, not as dark as this, but And I thought, what am I doing, Kathy? But anyway, it was very tiring to do that. So anyway, I love it. I absolutely love this yoke. I love the Entropy and the Jameson, especially this part that I wound off. Oh, I mentioned in that episode 28 when I was talking about the washing out the machine oil. When I wound off hanks of the yarn off the cone and I washed it in hot water, which is what the Jamieson and Smith website says to do, I washed it with Dawn dish soap because it has this amazing grease removing ability. I use that, and I have to say that the part I use the Dawn on is softer than at the end here. When at the end in the body, I added on just straight from the cone, and I washed that with McLochlann, which is my favorite wool washing cleaner, and which I do love. But I think the Dawn really got the machine oil out better. It just feels fluffier here. So anyway, I'm really happy with this project. I'm happy I solved the neckline problem. It seems to fit pretty well. I do have an issue. I have found that my yoke sweaters, sometimes they start creeping up on me. I think they're a little better if I'm wearing something underneath. And so maybe the fabric against fabric is kind of holding it in place a little more. But I do find, I'm starting to doubt whether the circular yokes, despite the gorgeous color work, are really the best fit for me. So I'm happy with it. It seems to work pretty well. But just food for thought about that. So anyway, I'd love to hear if you're doing an Alpine bloom. I should mention the one I chose to do is the fingering weight, 24 stitches to the inch. And then the designer came out with a second version, which is the Autumn Alpine. And that one called for sport weight yarn. And I didn't check the gauge on that, but it is you might have, if you are, especially if you didn't care about the lace, then you could, then that might be a better choice for you, and it is the same yoke. So anyway, there's also, I believe, a Alpine bloom hat. And is there something else? Socks, maybe? I don't know. At least the hat. The hat does look great. So if you wanted to just get your, kind of get that fun bit of doing this design, you could do the hat, see if you like it, and then see if you want to go forward with the sweater. Okay, I have one more finished object for you, and that is, speaking of hats, it is a hat, and the design is the Stalk and Pip Beret by Ailbionna McLochlann, and I made mine with the Berroco Ultra Alpaca, which is 50% superfine alpaca and 50% Peruvian wool. And I made I made a ranunculus out of this. I've done a Sophie scarf, and I absolutely do love this yarn. Do I have the yarn somewhere? Yeah, here it is. It's just the feel is so nice, and it's got kind of a nice halo. The color is 8218 2. And as I'm making this, I have to say I was longing for a sweater in this colorway. Oh, it is so good. But it is still pretty dark, a little bit lighter. It wasn't, it's a hat, so it didn't take so long. But I knew I would really use this color. I have a winter coat that's kind of colorful. It's kind of bright teal, and I really needed a hat that wouldn't compete so much with the coat, and I'm really happy to have this one. This was in my stash, kind of deep stash now, at least, I would say at least 2 years old, maybe 3, and so I'm always happy to use up some of this. There are a couple things about it. Let's see. I made one little mistake, but truly nobody would see it. So I'm going to try and put it on, even though. So yeah, oh, I love this. I love this. See my little, I made my stalk into a pip. I'll show you a little bit clearer. And I chose the picot edge here. Oh, it's just a great hat. Oh my gosh. I don't wear beanies, and I love berets, and I think they're just kind of more forgiving than the beanie that comes straight down. So here is my pip. She called. I took this. It starts with an I-cord, and she says you can keep it as the stock or turn it around. And now it's a loop if you wanted to hang it. I probably won't, but cute idea. And then also here's my little picot edge. And let's see if I don't know if I can find it. Should I show you if I find a mistake? So right here, so you switch to smaller needles for this edging, and she has you put in a scrap yarn right at this point when you switch to the smaller needles, and then you're turning it over here. And when I was picking up the stitches and then you bind it off, picking up the bottom, the stitches of the body. And when I was doing that, I have this little place here where I was picking up the stitches above the scrap yarn instead of right on it. But it's just not even noticeable. So I'm not even gonna go look for it for you, but I am really happy. Let's see if you could see the design. A little hard to see, but I wanted to tell you though a couple things about this pattern. This designer, she's from Donegal, Ireland, and this designer, I have found every pattern, she has so many options for you. You can change your gauge. She just gives you many options. Sometimes she has, on some of her sweaters, she has half sizes. And this is no exception. And you can start the yarn in a fabric, making a fabric you like, and then check your gauge. So you start and you get quite a ways into it and you start, it's top down. So you start with your little stalk, and then you're at least around this far before you have to decide what size. And so you have plenty of time to check your gauge as you're knitting it. And then she tells you how to adjust it if your gauge doesn't fit with one of her sizes. So it's just really any fabric that you're liking, you could go ahead and make this hat. The other thing is she does give you 3 options for the edging. And even though I really liked this picot edge, the other options are is a very plain edge that would make it look like a beret that you might buy somewhere. So that just it's intended to go inside, be folded inside. And then there's also an edge that's like this one, where it's folded over and bound off with this, there's kind of a line here, which is hard to see in this color. And it's without the picot. So there's 3 options here. Any gauge, you really can't go wrong with this. And I'd love to have a couple more of this hat. I find the, also, it's, if you want a warm hat, having a yarn that mixes with alpaca is just fantastic, and the wool keeps it, I think, from stretching out the way alpaca might if left to its own devices. Let's see if I can tell you anything else. It does fit very snugly, and this is an issue for me with hats. So she warns you that it'll feel snug when you first put it on, and then it kind of loosens, and I did find that to be the case. Okay, the other thing is a lot of people are putting their hats over a dinner plate, and I'm just too afraid of stretching out my edge over the dinner plate. And maybe it's fine. If you've done it, you might give me a shout, a cheer below if you've been able to do it without any too much loosening of the band here. But the way I've been doing it for the last 2 hats I made is I've been stuffing the hat when it's wet. So I'm washing it, I'm soaking it, and then I have, after I partially dry it with a towel, I roll it up in a towel, try and get all the water out as much as I can, and then I have been stuffing it with plastic bags. And, you know, just the bags you might get. I'm trying to eradicate them from my house, but they seem to just be there. And I do reuse them. So the bags that you might get your produce in or whatever, and I just stuff them in here, as many as I can. And it doesn't involve the outer band at all, but just pushes out this. And I do like it fuller. I don't want it tight against. I don't have those. I don't have symmetrical enough features to have that straight back anything. And I just think it looks really great. So this was a fun project and very, very quick, and I highly recommend it, or anything else by Ailbionna. Okay, I do have a couple whips. I have to say that this sweater really, it just seemed like all I did was knit on this sweater, and then I'd stop and do something else, or knit a swatch. I have a failed project that I was going to show you today, and I'm going to wait, but it's one where it's a vest. It's just driving me crazy. I don't have the finished object, and I may take the whole thing with all the yarn I bought and donate it, maybe with a warning label on it, because the yarn's twisted, and even in blocking it, you can see my stitches go this way. It's just so biasing. So I will report back on that, but I have cast on 2 projects recently that I would like to show you. I told you about several I was going to start, so I do have my swatch for the building blocks vest that I talked about last time by Amy Shear. So that's waiting in the wings, but I was distracted because there are 2 things here. One is I absolutely needed something really simple something that I could carry with me for many, many days, many, hopefully, days of knitting when I'm talking to people and stuff. So I cast on this little shawl. It's called the Gamma Shawl by Larissa Brown. I have done another one before, and people in my knitting group have knit many of these. Some people have knit many. And let's see, it is a paid pattern. But that's the shape of it. And so what you do is you knit this right here first, and then you pick up the stitches here and do that. It just couldn't be more easy. So I have gone deep into my stash, and this is the beginning of my gamma. This yarn was some yarn that I got at an estate sale quite a few years ago. I would say, oh my gosh, it had to be 3 or 4 years ago. And here's another ball I got, maybe 5 different balls of kind of coordinating, and I always imagined they'd be in a shawl together. So I'm doing my first bit in this one, and you can see it has quite a bit of color in it. There's also some blue in there. And then I will do my second bit in this. And then I also, I have another color that I might add in some stripes. So this is my totally, absolutely mindless knit here, because I just had to have something. It has kind of a nice edge. Super easy. You're increasing on one side, decreasing on the other. And I do like very much how it looks when you pick up the stitches for the second curl, the curl part of it. So it's just super easy, and something I need to have at the ready. The other thing that I cast on, and I have to say that the reason I have been attracted to this is almost for a couple of reasons, but the biggest one is that there's a knit along at Youthful Fiber Farms that's been going on. There's quite a lot of action discussion on Ravelry, and I love going up to the shop days that Kim has. She has them once or twice a month, and if unless I'm out of town or something, then I definitely try and go to her shop days, because there's just a lovely sit along and knit. And if you're in Oregon, anywhere in the valley, I hope you join us sometime and say hello, because it's just a lot of fun. So because all these other people were casting on, I was at a shop day a couple weeks ago, and I got to see what people were casting on. So even though Kim is not selling her own yarn, she sells fleece and, she sells for spinners, and she's teaching a lot of online spinning, but she's not making her own yarn anymore. But she is selling retail a lot of yarn that's made in the U.S. and from some small, not tiny necessarily, but smaller suppliers. And so I've been able to see what she used and what several other people have used for this sweater, and so I cast one on. So this is a free pattern. It's called Calliope, and it's by Melissa Clulow, who was at Espace Tricot, and it's a very simple top-down sweater. It's intended to have 10 to 14 inches of positive ease. I probably won't do quite that, but the attraction for me is really this rib beginning here. And the stitch gauge is 20 stitches per inch, which is really a happy place for me. I'm knitting the body on size 6 needles, and I did my beginning on size 4s, I believe. And so let me show you what I am doing. I have my beginning here, and there we go. You can see I'm using a solid color with a mohair, and the variation you're seeing is primarily in the mohair. But see all that ribbing. I have now just finished the ribbing, and this I just did this, yesterday. So it goes really fast, and I'm ecstatic to be working on size 6 needles after the small ones here. Now, actually, it raises the question, what size am I using for this? So it looks like I'm using size 5 for my little shawl here. Anyway, let me show you the yarn. I'm using 2 kinds, and it was looking at Kim's, seeing how it just looks so scrumptious. I can see I dropped a mohair stitch here. That is the problem with mohair, or just holding 2 yarns together. You can see I see that little drop stitch. I'll go back and fix it if I ever find it again. But so I'm doing 2 yarns. First one is this one from Sincere Sheep, and it's 100% Cormo fingering. So it's pretty, and it's in the Urchin colorway, and it's a pretty matte sort of yarn. The Cormo feels great. To me, it's not like a soft, like, oh, I want to pet it soft, but it's definitely, there's not a bit of prickle or scratch. To me, it's absolutely a next to skin, and I would like to try it sometime without the mohair. It says hand-dyed yarns and fibers using the finest natural dyes, and it is from Geese, Geis Ranch in Campbell County, Wyoming, and there's 500 yards in this. It says the Napa Valley. For us, that means California, but it must not be. It must be in Wyoming. And I believe it was spun in Pennsylvania, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. So they emphasize, though, hand-dyed fibers, hand-dyed yarns. So all made in the U.S., of course. And so very fun. I looked up Cormo yarn. It is apparently known for its elasticity and stitch definition, which when you put it with mohair, I can't say, but even with the mohair, I think you can see the rib pretty nicely. And it's a little darker because I'm also using this mohair. Let me see if I can. So here's the wound mohair. So you can see it has quite a bit of variation. I love it when you wind mohair, all the fluff is the dark part, and then you see this. And I think on the sweater, it looks more like it is in this skein here. This is silk and mohair, 72% superfine kid mohair and 28% silk, as so many of the mohairs are. It's from Ewetopia, which is a company in Wisconsin. And this is, so there's 455 yards of this one, slightly, so it gives me about 100 yards less than what's in here, but I feel confident that it'll be enough. It is the Twilight color, and I do really like these colors. It's a little darker than I intended after my little navy blue journey in dim light, but I really wanted, when I saw Kim's version where she used the sincere sheep and this, it just felt so squishy and nice, and I wanted to try it, and this was my best option. The blues were gone, and she had some absolutely gorgeous greens and coral, and yeah, there's some really, really nice ones. So I'll put the link to Kim's website if you're interested in something like that. Really fun, all in the US. Let's see what I can say. It says, this yarn is dyed in small batches. We use metal-free professional acid dyes that have superior color fastness and vibrancy of color. This makes your yarn safe for the environment and also for you. So anyway, there is that, and it just, oh my gosh, just flying off the needles. There is something about this pattern that got, there's a lot of discussion on the Ravelry page for this knit along, and a lot of discussion about the short rows, because the beginning of round is at the beginning of one of the sleeves, and so the short rows, they do run from sleeve along the back and forth, but because of where the beginning of round is, it's a little confusing. I am going to follow one of the other knitters has marked her her back, which I can find. I believe that's my back. So I'm gonna mark that, so when I'm looking at it, I can feel confident that I'm hitting the right spot. So yeah, what I did is I added in an extra marker. They have, the designer has you mark, put markers around each of the sleeves, and I also have marked the, put a special marker for the beginning of round, for the back, not the beginning of round. So yeah, it's kind of funny that way, but it seems to be not too much of a problem. So here I go. We'll see. It is pretty dark, but this is the kind of thing I'll reach for a lot. There's enough color variation. It kind of jazzes it up, but it's just, for me, a super wearable thing. So anyway, that will just go along, and as soon as once I split for sleeves, this will also be something that I can knit while I'm just socializing. So those are it right now. I think that is it. I'm gonna go have lunch with a friend, and I have been reading, but I haven't been finding anything that I'm just really want to share. So possibly the one I'm reading now, but I have some other books in my future that I'll share with you, I'm sure. I really enjoyed All Creatures Great and Small, which finished its season. That was so much fun. And I might go back and look at a few episodes to see the sweaters. So I hope you're doing well. I'd love to hear from you about what you're knitting. And I hope the weather isn't too bad where you are. We have a lot of gloom, but we also have the sun break out once in a while. And since our ice storm, it really hasn't been super cold. But I've had some good walks where I've had a wool sweater under a coat and haven't needed to unzip even after an hour of walking. So that means it's cold. It's cold, but no precipitation, no snow on the ground. We're all good here. And I hope all is well with you, that you are having fun knitting and starting to think about spring. So take care. Happy knitting.